In this video, we're going to discuss weight loss in World Carnivore Month. What's shaking, bacon? My name's Bruno Panucci, and in this video, we're going to discuss what people expect when they think, I want to lose 20 pounds or 60 pounds. Well, it's really important to understand whenever anyone says that, they don't mean they want to lose 60 pounds of muscle, or they don't want to lose 60 pounds of lean mass. When people say they want to lose weight, they typically want to lose X amount of weight of fat. So we want to try and work towards only losing fat, because as soon as you start losing lean mass, you start losing your metabolism, and that slows it down, and then it makes it more difficult to lose weight later on. The nice thing about this way of eating is it's a high protein diet. So because you're on a high protein diet, because it's just meat for the most part, what happens is you end up through your daily activity getting enough protein to naturally build muscle. So if you have a routine where you're active around your property, or you're active at work doing a lot of moving around or a little bit of lifting here or there, you now have the proper fuel for your metabolism to build muscle, which builds bone density. And once you do that, you're gonna have a higher resting metabolism. That's why when people end up doing this way of eating, they lean out, but they often keep their weight, their muscle weight with them, and they look a little better. When you see people do keto, a keto type of eating, it's a high fat diet, 80% fat, with only about 20% protein and a itty bitty little bit of carbs. And what happens with that is it's just enough carbs to keep addiction going for any of you who are suffering from carbohydrate addiction, but it's also just enough protein to help you function just enough. And that's why when you see people coming from a keto background, not always, but quite often, they look like they become a bit of a skinny fat person. They're very flabby and they have rolls, even though they don't look overweight. You could put clothes on them and you would think, wow, they look like they're a decent weight, but they're kind of soft. And it's because they've lost a lot of their muscle and bone tissue. So we want to minimize that when we lose weight. And I know that's a goal when a lot of people start a carnivore diet. We want to optimize putting on lean mass or trying to maintain it as best as we can while we lose fat. So I, for example, have gone from over 460 pounds. I'm now at 320 pounds. So I want to, at this point, really start maintaining my lean mass as I lose weight. Now I am going to do a challenge for the next few months of only having about 2,000 calories a day of protein. So this is going to eat into my metabolism a little bit, but I'm at this point where between my exercise and my daily activity, I'm a massage therapist, so it's a bit of an active job for me, really just upper body, because I'm such a big guy, I don't have to work to get the deep pressure. I can kind of just lean on someone with my thumb, and it's pretty effortless for me. But nonetheless, I get a good arm and shoulder workout from it. But some people have jobs where they're just so active that it's a great way to keep their muscle mass and lean mass up. You want to make sure that you're getting enough protein, typically, to keep your lean mass up. When I switch over to this 2,000 calories a day of protein and fat, that's technically going to be well below my recommended daily average, because my resting metabolic rate right off the bat is over 2,400 calories. I don't really pay much attention to this stuff, to be honest. I just monitor the fact that that's where it's supposed to be. The fact that I'm going down to 2,000 calories a day shows how seriously I take this. It's something to keep in mind, it's good information to know, but 2,400, almost 2,500 calories a day is my body's way of saying, this is how much energy you need just to lie there and do nothing all day. You want to binge a TV show on Netflix? That's how many calories it takes for me to do. So what we want to do is keep in mind, you have to burn more calories through the day. So we're now upping it, in my case, up to about 3,500 calories a day with my workouts. My style of weightlifting this month is going to be working any muscle till exhaustion, however many reps that takes, starting at a heavier weight and then working it down. So if I do 180 pounds of bench pressing as many times as I can, as soon as I pump out that last one, I'm going to quickly take 30 or 40 pounds off the bar. And then I'm going to do even more reps. And then I'm going to go till I can't do any more. And you keep doing this over and over again until you get down to a really light weight. And you get to the point where it's so difficult, you're just to get a drink, your hands quivering as you're putting your cup to your mouth, because it's exhausting on the muscles. So it's a different way of fatiguing the muscles. The whole point of exercise is to fatigue the muscles, work them to the point of exhaustion and a little itty bitty bit past that, so that you do enough damage to make the muscle come back stronger next time. You don't want to do enough damage to the muscle that it turns around and says, I don't like you anymore. I'm not doing this. So we want to find that happy balance, that good burn when you do an exercise. A lot of people start this way of eating, this carnivore zero carb lifestyle, because they want to lose weight. Some people do it to manage their health problems. Well, the good news is you can do both with this way of eating. What I've noticed in my personal experience is any type of diet or any type of eating I've ever done in my life, I've lost weight over time. Losing the weight over time helps manage my health problems. And over a period of months, I tend to feel healthier and my health problems don't bother me because I've lost so much weight. The difference I found with doing this zero carb carnivore diet is I feel good right away. My health problems correct almost right away. Then the weight loss comes. Well, how does that happen? Well, one of the leading theories is it's managing inflammation in the body. So in the first couple of weeks, I get these benefits like my snoring goes away, my inflammation goes away. So now moving is easier. So at that point, that's not a bad time to start incorporating some exercise. And you tend to get better and better as you go along. And you feel better before the weight loss actually happens. So you're more engaged in wanting to try this weight loss versus being sore all the time and then trying to do this exercising. It's sometimes too overwhelming for people when they're trying to do diet and exercise all at once. My recommendation is for the first month, just stick to a good way of eating like zero carb. Then over a little while, maybe a couple weeks or a few weeks, you can start incorporating some really light exercise. But what type of exercise do you incorporate? Well, when you do steady state cardio or steady state exercising, like 45 minutes on a cycling machine or 45 minutes or an hour jog or rowing or any type of machine, a ski erg. I have a ski erg myself. I have a rowing machine myself. I use them, but I do HIIT workouts on them. I go really intense with the exercise and then I go really easy with the exercise. And once I've kind of caught my breath again, I go as intense as I can and then I go as easy as I can. And you go back and forth, kind of like a hill program where you're up and down with the intensity. And what happens is you only do that for about 15 minutes. If you do a HIIT workout longer than 15 minutes, or one of those hill exercises, you're doing it wrong. You want to try and build muscle while you're losing weight and you're raising your metabolism. You're going to get winded, but you don't want to do it so long that you start eating into your lean mass as fuel. And that happens after about 30 minutes of exercise. Once you get to about the 20-minute mark, that's a good safe place to stop, because after that, it's counterproductive. You're using the wrong type of fuel to fuel your exercise, and now you're using your lean mass to fuel your exercise. That's not a good thing. So what we want is to maximize any exercise we're doing by short bursts of intense exercise, weight-bearing exercises, like do 5 minutes of squats, do 5 minutes of push-ups, do 5 minutes of burpees. You don't need a gym. And right now, especially with all these lockdowns we're going through, it's really good that you have a little routine you can do from home. So it's going to help maximize the weight loss. What things also stall weight loss? Well, like we just talked about, I know that might seem controversial to some people because this is the way we always knew it was for decades and decades and decades. You want to lose weight, go do some steady cardio. But studies are showing now when you do steady state cardio for long windows of time, you lose up to 50% of your lean mass that you lose weight. So if you lost 10 pounds, you probably lost about 5 pounds of lean mass. Give or take a pound. Everyone's gonna be a little bit different. You wanna minimize the lean mass loss and maximize the fat loss. When it comes to the diet end of things, you wanna make sure you're fueled. I always recommend sticking with red meat when you do this way of eating, but you can get a high amount of protein and your scale may not change. As if you look back at some of my old videos, you'll see this. The scale may not change, but underneath things are changing. And that's where I went out and I got some scans, medical grade scans, to find out what my lean mass and what my body fat percentage was. And the goal was to put on lean mass and see if I could lose any weight with that. Now, the main goal was to put on lean mass, and I'm glad I did, because if you look back at some of these videos, my last video, I went over these details. After 4 months, even though my lean mass went up by month 2 and peaked, it went down again by month 3 or 4 as I was losing weight. I ended exactly where I started with 185.7 pounds of lean mass. But by that point, I lost 15 pounds of just fat. That's the goal. We want to lose just fat. So I lost 3.5 inches on my waist doing that way of eating. I bought a pea coat 2 years ago that I never got to wear more than a dozen times because I lost 3.5 inches doing this way of eating, and now I had to buy a smaller coat. So good problems to have. Not having enough calories can slow your metabolism down as well. Steady state cardio slows your metabolism down, and also not having enough calories can slow your metabolism down because even though I'm going to go on this 2,000 calorie a day challenge for the next few months, what's going to happen is it will have an impact on my metabolism and it will slow down. And that's why I'm going to be doing some exercising with weight-bearing exercises to minimize that. So hopefully it might go up, but chances are it'll go down a little bit. But if I lose 3 pounds of muscle and 30 pounds of fat, that's not too bad. Another thing that can slow down weight loss is too many calories. Now, I've been doing this all year long. All year, all of 2021, I ate as much as I wanted, as often as I wanted. And I still lost a lot of weight. I was satisfied and full most of the time, most every single day. And I was having usually between 3 to 5 pounds of meat a day, sometimes red meat, sometimes wings. I have a big appetite and it's always served me in a negative way. But on this carnivore diet, as much as I was eating, I still lost weight steady all year long. I probably could have lost weight faster if I would have had maybe 3 to 4 pounds of meat a day versus up to 5 or 6 some days. But I wanted to be satisfied. And if you have to eat more while you start this carnivore way of eating, it's just to stick to it so that you can stay full, so you're not gonna have to suffer through the cravings of carbohydrate and sugar withdrawal, then do that. Keep yourself satisfied for the whole month if you're trying this for the first time. But if you're feeling pretty confident and the sugar withdrawals aren't too bad, you can lower the calories a little bit and you'll lose weight a little bit faster. So you can try eating a little bit less. Intermittent fasting works for some people. For me, it doesn't work that well at all. I have hypothyroidism and it's a strain on the thyroid gland to do that. So for me, it doesn't have the opposite effect, but it doesn't have the desired effect for weight loss. It doesn't throw me into autophagy as easily as it does other people. As important as insulin is to lose weight, the thyroid gland trumps insulin when you have hypothyroidism, and that's my condition. So it has gotten better since I started carnivore, but it still has a long way to go to improve. I didn't mind keeping dairy in my diet for the first number of months because for me, it made doing carnivore easy. And if it makes doing a zero carb way of eating easier, then that might be a necessary evil that might slow your weight loss, but help you commit to this way of eating. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It depends on what your goals are. If your goal is to strictly lose weight, as a lot of people who turn to a carnivore diet use this way of eating for, then you may want to consider dropping dairy. But if you think you need it just to make this transition a little easier, stick with it, right? So it takes an extra couple months to lose those few pounds. And it gets you to the point where after you hit maybe about a 3-month mark, it's really, really easy to do and your cravings go away. They get better and better week after week after the first week. The first week can be brutal, especially if you have artificial sweeteners in your diet. Man, that makes it tough to lose the weight. On a twofold account, if depending on who you listen to. Sometimes if you keep artificial sweeteners in your diet, if you listen to one group, they say, oh, that does nothing because there's 0 calories and it doesn't have a negative impact on your body. Other specialists, depends on which studies you want to listen to and acknowledge, they'll tell you that what happens is it doesn't bother your sugar, but it tricks your brain and it gives you an insulin release. And your insulin doesn't know what to do, so it starts preventing you from losing weight. Yeah, you can lose weight having these artificial sweeteners, but you're keeping the sugar cravings alive and well. You've just replaced the sugar cravings with a fake sugar. If you replace those artificial sweeteners with more protein and good quality meats like ground beef, you're gonna find you're not gonna have a craving for those sweeteners. And within the first week, they probably go away, those cravings go away probably by about 70 or 80%. And it just gets better and better after that. Sweeteners are a tough thing when you keep it in your diet because you're tearing the Band-Aid off really slow. And when you tear that Band-Aid off really slow, you're keeping those cravings alive for weeks and weeks or sometimes months longer than you need to. So artificial sweeteners, it's a double-edged sword. Try and replace that with more meat. Another thing that happens is sabotage. So I was famous for this. I would start losing weight on any way of eating that I would normally do, and I would think, I'm losing weight, I'm feeling pretty good. And then you think, I can afford to do this. I can afford to have this little treat here or there, or the extra portion sizes. Now, you have the portion sizes that make you feel comfortable and satisfied. That's my number one recommendation when doing a carnivore diet. But don't treat yourself and convince yourself it's okay to have these foods that are not a part of this eating. Honey is not a part of a zero carb diet. Artificial sweeteners will mess with your mind and make you crave lots of this junk food. What you want to do is try and make sure that you don't give yourself these treats or cheats so that you're dragging out the benefits. Because if you have a little bit of sugar once a week, or an artificial sweetener, it can keep the inflammation alive and well in your joints. And it can keep the cravings alive and well in your body. And you're sabotaging yourself because you're not going to know what it's like to go a month zero carb. It's a compounding effect. The longer you go zero carb, the better you're going to feel by the end of the month. And you're sabotaging yourself week after week if you're having a little treat here and there, even just a little bit. So the best way to go is cold turkey. It's a tough road to do, but it's a better road to take. It's a straighter, true path to feeling good. And the weight loss comes a lot faster when you manage these ways of sabotaging yourself. Cutting out some of these bad things and adding some of these good habits, a little bit of exercise. Squat routines and deadlifts are probably the best exercises you can do. Shoulder press, these compound exercises where you're not just doing one muscle group, you're working multiple muscle groups at once. So you can go online and find tons of videos on how to do these properly until I start posting some exercise videos on do's and don'ts and some different exercise styles you can do. I want to get to those really soon because with these lockdowns and people getting locked out of their gyms, they need to know what they can do at home that's not going to be overwhelming. There's a real expense to that when you have to go buy exercise equipment. So if we can do this, where you can work out at home with a minimal amount of equipment, and maybe even no equipment, you can still look great and it's not going to break the bank. And you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. Back to the diet end of things, you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money on meat because you can get ground beef for just a few dollars a pound. If you're only eating 2 or 3 pounds a day of ground beef, and then every now and then you accent it with some wings or some pork chops or some steaks, it's a very affordable way of eating. Stress eating is also a trigger for people. And this is a deeper level of what we're dealing with when it comes to people that have gotten overweight. Sometimes to begin with, this is what helped get a lot of people to get to the point where they're overweight. That's partly what got me to being overweight. I ballooned up when I went to college. When I went to college, I put on 50 pounds because I was sitting all day and it was a stressful time in my life. I had exams every couple weeks. I had tests every single week, 2 or 3 tests a week. And I was also working nights. So going to school through the day, working nights, fortunately it was a fun job. I was a bouncer, so it was pretty easy, but nonetheless, it was still an opposite schedule. And what happened was I started eating a lot of junk food, even more than I normally ate before. And then when I finished college, I kept up those habits and I wasn't exercising like I was before college. So I just ballooned up another 100 pounds. So in a short window of time, I just became a really huge guy. And I was a big guy when I started college, but I wasn't like a grossly obese looking guy. I looked like a big guy who used to lift weights. You know, you wouldn't look at me and think fat guy. My own history with weight and eating was I've been a stress eater since I was a little guy. I had sugar addiction from the time I can remember. My parents used to buy Kool-Aid. And when I was a kid, Kool-Aid used to put a whole cup of sugar in that water with each little package of Kool-Aid. And I remember when they cut it down to 2/3 of a cup, and my sister and I were like, wow, like you put less sugar in this nowadays. And then I think they eventually went down to half a cup. And my parents thought they were making a healthy choice, not giving us pop. It's the same thing. Well, here's the other problem, and this is what you're going to be fighting when you go to a zero carb way of eating, energy drinks. You can get some zero carb energy drinks, and you're leaving a way of drinking where some people have had alcohol. That's a tough one for people, but also these energy drinks like Gatorade. Gatorade is Kool-Aid for adults. That's all it is Kool-Aid, marketed as a sports drink. It's just the same junk that's in Kool-Aid. You want to make sure you're not sabotaging yourself. Keep the exercising short, stay away from artificial sweeteners, Try and do weight-bearing exercises instead of cardio exercises. Try to make sure you're not getting too little or too many calories. Too little calories, you're gonna get really hungry and wanna cheat. Too many calories, it'll slow your weight loss. Dairy can also do it, as well as just changing your mindset. Going through the withdrawals, that can be the difficult part. The first week or two can be horrible for people. I went through it myself. So it's sticking to it. So if you can keep up with this, not a lick, taste, or bite, that's your goal, not a lick, taste, or bite. If you can accomplish that, you're gonna fly and you're gonna do really well. And just stick with this, and before you know it, you're gonna turn around and be surprised at how much weight you lost doing this. And with, like I said, with this carnivore diet, you'll feel better before you start losing weight. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you another time. Take care.